Okay, here we go. This is the regular meeting of the Woodbridge Conservation Commission. This is the November 16th, 2017 meeting. As always, we start off with public comments, and almost as always,
No.
we don't have anybody here, sadly. Next is to review and approve the minutes of the October 19th regular meeting. That was not a special meeting. And did everybody have a chance to have a look?
I move that we approve.
I will second that. I'm just quickly skimming, I think, for the second time here. Any discussion on the minutes? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Abstain? I was guessing.
Good guess.
Very rarely is there a objection. Okay, update on our trail walks. So since the last meeting, we had 2 trail walks. The first was at the country club. We had good weather for that one. It was a nice day. It was sunny. We had a good turnout, thanks to Lauren pushing. Had a bunch of, I want to say about 15 people come out.
More.
20? How many do you think?
It was a good
Could
turnout.
have been more,
Yeah,
a few
it was
more.
a good turnout.
You know, if you count, there was
I feel like
a
it was a
few
good
kids.
turnout.
It was a great
Yeah.
turnout.
But everybody, it's probably a few more.
And predominantly we walked the perimeter of the property. Some of us went up to the center peak to see if there were any good leaf viewing opportunities, but at that point things had been shocked because we had that drop in temperature for a while. But it was good. I don't think there was any new revelations going around about it.
My only question would be, did you have a chance to follow up with Sheila or anybody about the clumps of,
I was just about to mention.
Excellent, good.
Because I drove past the property on my way home from work yesterday, I think it was, and yeah.
They removed the.
No,
It's
they're
been
all
clumped?
they're all still there.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
So we do need to follow up with the town and say, you know, the guy wanted it for haying, so let's take it away. Let's get it moved because it's going to kill the grass. Those big lines of clumpy grass. So yeah, I will follow up with Sheila about that. And then most recently we had another trail walk, but the weather wasn't so hot.
Did anybody go?
And
Hey,
those two.
All right.
Those two.
Tracy came.
Dedicated.
I was walking out the door and the rain started coming down again.
It wasn't raining really hard, but it was just enough to put people off.
Yeah.
It was a little more than a sprinkle.
Yeah, it's
It
This
rained
was the
as I
road
was
trail?
driving. It was kind
This-
of like, oh,
this
this will be
was the,
canceled. And Frank was
West
there. I'm like,
Rock,
sure, I'll just
Bishop
go.
Estate.
Bishop Estate
Yeah,
East, yeah.
I was in
So what we
California.
did was we
Yeah.
just did the loop. We didn't go, to the top of the rock, and it wasn't a terrible rain, but nevertheless it was pretty wet out.
it was sort of a
there.
gloomy day. I apologize for not being there. I was working on the
So,
car. Trying to
I
make sure
think
that didn't break.
the next time what we should do is advertise, if it's sprinkling, we bring rain gear, and if it's pouring rain, we cancel,
Cancel.
so
Yeah,
people
yeah.
are more aware of exactly what the situation would be in that case. It was really iffy.
Yeah.
You know, I've been told by people that we don't adequately advertise. Now, I don't know what else we're supposed to do, but people said I have no idea, and I said, well, I think it's in the town news, and but
It's
if
advertised.
it's possible that you don't know Lauren, I don't know how it's possible anyone in town doesn't know Lauren,
No,
but
no.
if you don't know Lauren
That's right.
and you're not on her email list, I think you may not hear about it.
Yeah.
No, but
It's-
it's on the Woodbridge town website.
It's
It
on
was.
and
It
I
was.
and I try to post it on the Facebook.
Go to the website.
It was just
But
the
if you're
weather.
interested in a walk, you could look it up and
Right.
see when they are.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was surprised when you did the one at the farm. There were a number of people from out of town that were there.
That happened to coincide with the Family Fun Day, so I think that probably
Oh.
contributed
Yeah.
to the
Oh.
little greater attraction. But it is difficult to advertise. Knowing my experience with the farm and advertising events at the farm for many years, you can put all the ads and money into the newspapers and flyers at Starbucks and Whole Foods and all over the
Can we put a
place.
flyer in the library? Is that
And there were
permissible?
other events, there were other walks going on at the same time
Oh.
also, yeah.
I think your Facebook stuff is,
I mean, that's the
Right.
low hanging fruit. But yeah, flyer in the library, certainly. Town hall. So
Yeah,
let's
Facebook's
work
probably
out,
best.
because Leland, you've got the next walk.
December
right, I
9th.
wanted to ask a couple things about that when you're ready.
I think we're ready.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Yep.
So, I was planning, I'm gonna go with Leland and sort of scope it out. Jay Agu, as I emailed to you, is not gonna be around. I left a
Correct.
couple of
Yeah.
messages for him if he had one of his interns or another professor at Yale or somebody, cause he's the state geologist.
Yeah.
And, you know, he actually used to be my company's conservator for restoration as well, as did his mentor before him. So we have a long-standing relationship, but he's really good about educating anybody in the public that's interested. And so I was hoping maybe if he can't do it, but I haven't been able to get to him. The other piece was, Frank, you had mentioned something about, you mentioned the ice box.
Yeah, that was a spring
How do you
fed
get to
stream.
the ice box?
It's pretty overgrown right now.
Oh.
It's a tough trail to get there, but we might be able to find it. It's actually on Nugent's property, I believe.
Well, I was wondering if you were willing, my son's gonna do it with me, I wonder if you would go,
Sure.
if we could do it together and scope it out?
We could do we could do a scoping, yeah.
Okay.
Where? Which trail is
It
this?
actually would be better right now.
What
because
we're
of the
gonna
leaves
try and
and
do is
the
the south
trees
part,
are bare. It'd be a
of-
little easier to find it right now.
which is
Which-
gonna take us across the private property, which is one of the key pieces that we're looking at.
The south part of
Maybe
what?
finding if there's some way we can buy it or not.
You
The
went
south,
up the north
from
part of the trail?
Thomas Darling
From
south.
Darling south.
Oh, okay.
And
Towards New Haven.
basically
Thomas Darling South.
past Canolds Pond,
Okay.
right? And the thing is that what
Across the
I'm
street
not
from
that
the
familiar
Darling?
with, I've never done that stretch between where Parati's piece is, where all the
Yeah,
reprocessing is going on.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I'd hope that we could sort of hook up to the south side of Canolds Pond, you know, past where the animal shelter and all that is, in that,
Didn't we do
All right, I think we should get permission from
Yeah.
the West Rock materials there, and I don't think it'll be a problem on a Sunday. If we do it on a Sunday, I think
Great.
we could go through there but I think our walk is
so
scheduled for Saturday.
when
so-
you do
Yeah.
that,
it is
Yeah.
Saturday.
make sure
I could do that, but we'd have to do it on
Yeah,
a
so
Sunday.
will you call me, we'll talk about that.
Yeah,
So one of the things that I'm thinking is that a lot of the, not nursery school, daycares and stuff like that, and the seniors all walk up, you know, around the pond that way as sort of a regular walk thing. And so I'm curious as to how and if we can ever sort of join what is where they took the dam out, where the fish run used to be, down at the lower West River in New Haven, and actually connected like they did the Farmington Canal, where we could really have a continuous walk all the way from, you know, either New Haven Green or even the shoreline all the way up this way.
Exactly.
can I intervene? We already have a map that's been more or less drawn out by COG. We took it up to COG, and they were good enough to draw a preliminary map which goes from the Sound all the way back to the Woodbridge Greenway. So yeah.
Keep that a secret.
Yeah, we won't tell anybody about that.
So
one.
Frank, will you bring that when we?
Well, yeah, they're actually doing it right now as we
Yeah.
speak. It's probably I'll probably have the physical map by next week.
I'd be interested
What's
to
your-
see their
Does
Do
it
you
proposal.
mind
start
giving
at
me
the
your cell
Darling
number?
House?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
'Does the
203.
walk start
Yeah.
at the
Do it on
Darling House and
public
then go like where the chicken coop, like they go right?
Oh,
as
wait a minute.
opposed to-
Yeah, I'll just write it down.
What's
for
the
you.
number, Frank?
I'll
I
just
don't
write
You
it
gotta
down.
go to the base of West Rock,
I'll
He's
write
gonna
it
write it
down.
down for
and
us.
then,
Okay.
and then you turn.
Okay.
Yeah, so you gotta
So
go.
there's like a rock wall, and then you go right that way.
No,
Good
just
point.
it's the
Sure.
same walk into the woods from the Darling House where you go over
Right
that
over the
suspension
bridge.
bridge.
Okay.
Once you go over that bridge, go to the right, and
Right.
just keep going that direction.
Okay.
Eventually, you'll cross
But there's
the,
till there's a no trespassing sign.
right, you'll,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
yeah,
and then you
so
keep
we'll
going.
get, hopefully, I don't see any reason not, permission to cross his private property. And if you get across that, you end
That's
up on state
awesome.
property, once you
Yeah.
get across that, you end up at West
That's-
Rock Materials. And then you end
Well,
up.
that's what
I
I don't
know.
know, is if we can go on the state property and not go on West Rock Materials property.
You sort of can, as
It's
long
like
as
a
you're a
climb.
billy goat.
Right.
Because
We
it's
have
a-
to go
it's
right along
about
the
a
ridge.
60-degree slope.
Can I
Maybe
read this now?
45-degree slope.
That'll be great, you guys.
But yeah, and even in this group, we've talked about making that greenway connection.
Right.
And the tricky part
You
is
want me to
right.
read this?
The tricky part.
The tricky part is when you get around West Rock Materials.
Is right there.
How do you
That-
how do you get
but
out of there and onto a public
It
right
would
of
be
way?
a great greenway. The path is already there along the pond there,
Yeah.
and just before the spillway, you know, the wildlife there is fabulous. So it would be a great place to have that greenway, and it could probably at some point tie into the ballpark, and then from the ballpark up to the ridge and the Regicide trails.
Yep.
We're working
Cool.
on that with the trail
Okay,
coming up from the West River Greenway. So.
Excuse my ignorance.
So I don't
Oh, this is excellent. I love
Sure.
fresh ideas and
That's great.
energy. And I really am interested to see what COG comes up with a way to snake a trail through there.
We already have it all mapped out. I'll bring it as soon as I get it. you know.
Yeah, we'll bring it. We'll bring it to that walk because I'm sure,
Sure.
there'll be other people
Sure, that'd be
interested.
great. Yeah, we could look at the whole thing.
And
All the way down through Edgewood Park. It ties a lot of
Well,
trails
actually, one of
already
the
there
things that I
together.
was thinking too is, maybe we can put in our budget, it'd be great to have, a few nice large laminated maps that we can share regularly, but certainly have in the meeting here when we're talking, because it'd
Oh.
be so nice to have the visuals.
to know where we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because not all of us are.
Well, I think
Keen on
even
all
if
the
we
little
know, I think
spots
when
around
we're all
town.
talking about, I think we've all done a lot of the trails, but I think it'd be great if we had something a little larger format where we could.
I keep meaning to bring my overhead projector
Yeah.
to
yeah.
project on that.
There we go.
And tonight was going to happen, but my schedule
So
didn't
the
quite
walk,
figure it
you
out.
guys, that's gonna be the walk for December, but you guys are gonna scope it out first, is that right? Because
Yeah.
I'd like to go, but I'll wait till you s-
walk or?
I'll scope walk.
All right.
What day is it gonna be?
Well, I don't know.
when the scope walk is.
Yeah,
Just
if
if
you
you
wanna
just
break it out.
email, yeah, because I know exactly where that's at. As long as I can bring my dog, because he's, it's fun.
And Frank, if you indicated that if it was going to be crossing West Rock Materials, we'd have to be on a Sunday, right? Because they're
Yeah, because
I've tried that,
I don't think Warren's
yeah,
gonna
I'll have
want
to try
people in
to
there
head to
when
the
the
top.
trucks are.
Oh,
it's
absolutely
really
not.
dangerous.
And then
you
gone
know,
all the
it
way
wouldn't make
down,
any
and then
sense, you
realized
know.
that there was none back, and
But
then
he'd probably be willing to give us permission to go through there on a
Well,
Sunday.
right now, this walk is scheduled for
Right.
Saturday, December.
Yeah, it is, so we might have to change it
Bump
to
it to the
Sunday.
10th, perhaps.
That's
I
the
haven't
reason I
done
mentioned that.
Okay.
Right in a while.
yeah.
So I think that detail will get worked out
Okay.
over
Frank,
the next
why
week.
don't we just play it by ear, whatever's
Just
nice
text
weather,
me.
we'll
I'm
do it the
around.
19th or the 26th. Do you mind giving yours?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if the weather's good, yeah, we get a nice day, we'll go out there.
I'll put it on your contact piece of paper.
The secret.
Yeah. I can, if I'm available, I'll go.
Come with us,
Yes. Okay.
All right, you
I
want
think
to?
it'd be fun to see new stuff for me, so.
Yeah.
Email me too.
Yeah, come.
If I'm
Yeah.
around, I'll
All right.
make a big conservation.
It'll be fun.
Is that okay?
I love
Well,
that.
Is that a meeting?
at that point, I think we're into territory of.
Oh,
A meeting.
Uh-oh.
right.
We'll find a hidden treasure.
All right,
We're
I will-
not
so-
allowed to do
I
that.
won't-
So we can
Yeah.
there's no problem to it. We just have to
Oh.
make sure we announce it.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
And
announce
that
it to who?
the public. I mean,
The
we
Freedom of
we just
Information
filed the special meeting agenda with the town
Okay.
So
That
if we
we're
don't
going on a
plan it,
walk.
a couple days ahead.
as long
of
as we
time.
don't plan it, and
No,
everybody
No,
no,
no.
sadly.
Last week.
You can't have a spur of the moment meeting.
Yeah.
That's not allowed.
You know,
Yeah, but this is not,
This is the
we're
other one. No,
not
I-
going up, we're going
right.
Yeah.
south. We're going south this time.
So, if you guys do figure out, I know you had mentioned this weekend. Sunday right now is the better day of the weekend, by the way.
Yeah.
Weather-wise?
Weather-wise, Sunday looks totally sunny right now.
Well, I'm going to be representing you guys at the conservation.
Oh.
Well, we're going
All day Saturday. Oh,
Yeah.
you're gonna go too?
Yeah.
Are we riding together?
We might. We'll talk.
Okay.
So, does anybody want to say that this Sunday will be a scope it out walk?
Trial trail walk.
I'm free Sunday
Trial trail walk.
because my kids are down at the cross for a few weeks and something else. So
Your call. Are you around?
Yes. I mean, the only thing was, I was sort of hoping it would be, you know, in other words, if all of a sudden there are a bunch of kids on a trail we
Yeah.
don't know, right? And that's why I really wanted to be a scope walk, because we don't know how hard it's gonna get, and
No, no,
plus,
Well,
we're
it
not gonna,
does- it
we're
just
not
needs to
gonna
be-
email blast it, we're just gonna special meeting it, right?
We just need to
Oh,
notice
okay.
it
Yeah,
as a
not
special.
email
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
blast it.
It does not have to be.
Just-
Come
yeah,
to our
just-
trail
so-
walk.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm just
This-
worried
this would
with
just
safety and
Just the
Yeah,
freedom of
I-
Issues
information thing,
of-
that's
I
what
see
you're
your
talking
point.
about.
if it was just like a little kind of informal thing, you know, and not. Yeah.
I think that is totally fine to.
if we're trespassing, we don't want people to know about it. I'm
Well,
just
we'll
kidding.
we'll get a hold. We
Just
got to get a
kidding.
hold of the right people as well. But it's easy enough to notice a special meeting.
Okay.
We don't need to say that invite your friends and family kind
Right,
of thing.
right.
It's just that we'll have a special meeting.
If you just
on
say
Sunday.
special meeting, I don't think
on,
anyone's
on,
gonna go.
on Sunday at 10 o'clock in the morning, you'll get nobody.
Right.
So,
Where do you want to meet?
I think
you
you've
want to
got
do
no
1
worry.
or 10? What do you guys want to do?
Well, what weather? I don't know.
I don't care.
I can't.
You're
make,
saying
I
the
can't,
weather's
I can't,
good?
I can't make it on Sunday. I've
What
already.
time's good for you? You're the busiest one out of all of us.
I
think.
like 1 better than
1
10.
o'clock, okay.
But I don't want to dictate it.
I
Let's
agree
do
with you
1.
because it's going
1
to be a
o'clock's good.
little
Okay.
warmer and.
Great, I'm switching it.
Yeah, later on would be a
1
little
is
better.
good.
It'd probably be warmer.
Look at that. The temperature will be falling all day on Sunday.
You will it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, we need
Rain-
Is that what you just looked up?
Rain
We're
overnight
changing it to
Saturday, and then
Sunday,
Sunday the temperature will start in the 50s and then slowly drop across the.
I say
course
let
of
the
day.
sun do it sometime.
Yeah.
1?
1 o'clock.
1.
Great.
Where will we meet?
Darling.
We meet at the Darling House.
Yeah.
And we'll go,
Yep.
we'll go, you know.
What day is that? November 19th. At 1 p.m. Alright. Cool. I'm particularly excited because that area,
Now, I did
that
call the
area is
Audubon
very interesting.
Society.
I like to see these. I like to see new trails. Fun.
And the Milford people.
To see if
and
they
they
would
come
come
up
to
with a
a-
burger.
Okay.
So I'm working on it.
Chris Lascalzo is the only one that I know of, and he's always tapped for coming to do bird walks here and there and
Uh-huh.
everywhere all the time.
I thought the geology would be great.
It
just
would
because of
give
where
them-
we're walking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great. And it's just.
What about your friend? What's his name? Who did the little book?
Simon.
Oh, Simon
Simon.
Donato? He would give you the history lessons of all the rocks and where the Indians came
The problem
from.
is he doesn't like to come out and speak.
This
He's
is
a
true.
great-
He is a quiet.
Yeah, he's a
Quiet guy.
great author. I mean, you've seen what he's done with the book and whatnot, you know.
And I've met him a couple times. He is very.
He's a great guy.
Mild
Yeah.
mannered.
Well, his
quiet.
wife comes to our house to
Does
take
he?
painting lessons from my mother-in-law,
Huh.
who's legally blind, but you know I don't
Yeah,
know
that's
what
great.
that.
Yeah. I'll ask him. I've asked him before. They say, how many people?
A lot of her comments are abstract.
all right. What's next on the agenda?
Oh my god.
This is a side of Lauren I haven't seen. Okay. And that'll wrap up our 2017 walks once the one happens there. And then usually January, February we'll trail off. So I think we'll figure out 2018 walks in the December and January meeting. All right. Next on the agenda is to discuss the potential application for the Deep OSWA grant. This is the state grant for the purchase of property. It's the Open Space and Watershed Acquisition Grant. In the past, we've tried to apply for this grant for the Nugent property, which we've just talked about where we're going to do a trail walk. And at the last meeting, Leland showed interest in being a representative to begin discussions And I did talk with Sheila, and she talked with Beth, and she also talked with Town Council Jerry Weiner, and they felt that for the time being, it would be best if they still remained the ones doing the representing. While they do appreciate the energy that we could bring and direction, they said they would like to be the current representatives, but
They meeting Board of Selectmen?
meaning
In terms of minutes.
they meaning a town employee
A town
instead
employee.
of one of us volunteers. Is what it comes down to.
Okay.
That's usually the policy, though. I mean, it has been in the past.
It has been. It has been, and I certainly understand as well. And it's up to the
And I understand as well, except that I'm really a firm believer that we're like sort of the what would I say, the ugly child of all the commissions with no power and not doing anything. And my feeling is, if we're going to advocate or we're going to do whatever we're going to do, right, is that let's be a little more aggressive and just say, that's great. And when can you give us a little time frame on what you're going to do?
Well, so the way that I left it is that we right now are going to talk about this and things that we would like them to discuss with the Nugents.
Okay.
And we will give them the speaking points and areas that we would like them to address.
And by the way, I'm not being critical in any way, except that there's so many things that the employed people here in this town have to do, that as a commission, if we're willing to step up and take some of the stuff off their plate, especially if we're giving them more stuff to do. Anyway, so.
And things move very slowly when there's fewer people to do the work.
And they're really doing a lot of work,
Yep.
There could also be too many cooks in the pot too.
Yeah. So to
Could we
the
have a
proverbial
member of the
town
commission
pot.
involved in the talks?
Is Sheila McCreven?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
All right. So.
So we would like them to, I think, what we had talked about is we would like them to approach the family in terms of gifting a couple of different things. One, gifting the land on the other side of the river as a tax benefit
Right.
of some kind to them.
Yeah, and I'd like to make sure they, say this is cut for the tax. How you couch it helps. You know what I mean? Go ahead. Sorry.
So yeah, explain what that might be and what the process might be in terms of getting an appraisal, but go present to them that as an option. Then we would like them to do that. That's stage one. Stage two would be, actually, if they have no interest in that, is to look at how could they possibly benefit, which would mean to bring it up to, or what avenue they would take that would allow a variance, a zoning variance, to allow the dry area on this portion to be approved as a buildable lot. It would require a variance, and what would be the stomach for that? So in other words, what we would say, in lieu of your giving this piece that is east of the river, the town of Woodbridge is going to go through the process of getting a variance so you'll have a buildable lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do we want to build there?
Oh, we
A
don't.
house or something.
Oh.
My understanding is right now, under the current inland
Okay.
wetlands regulations, is they can't actually get that square of
Oh,
land.
okay.
It could have been built on in the old days, which also could hold us to a lawsuit because it's a taxable piece. So I'm not sure of that, that requires a legal investigation, which would have to go through Jerry.
Yeah.
Right.
But that would be our second request to them. Our first would be, would you please approach them and see if they'd be willing to donate the land west of the river?
Wouldn't wetlands be involved in that
east of the river.
decision?
Well, no, the first piece would really be, and it might have to be the selectmen first, be proposed to them to say, does the town even want to go there, right? If the town says, yes, we'll go there, then yes, it would be planning and zoning and inland wetlands,
Yeah.
because it would be a variance.
And I contacted Christine today to find out if there is a buildable lot or if anyone has
Oh, good.
gone after it, and she said none of the current owners have approached the town to set out a building lot on that property. So there's nothing on record saying they would like to develop
So-
any part of the parcel.
So let's say as part of our first request, one, we would like our land use person, Christine, to look at the land to the west of the river and tell us if that's a buildable lot. Right?
Yep.
So that would be primary, and second would, and along with that initiative would be to ask them, would they be willing to donate, regardless of whether it's a building lot or not, the land east of the river.
Are they paying taxes on that right now, or do they have like some deal for?
Well, I'm sure they're paying taxes. I don't know if any
I mean,
special.
if they're
I'm
not
sure they're
using-
paying taxes as
Yeah,
a
I
buildable
mean-
lot.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right.
So, I mean,
Jason,
that's what I'm
who's
saying,
Christine?
like, why keep paying
Christine
taxes
Sullivan.
when you
Space
don't
also.
even?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Planning and zoning.
If
Oh.
they decided to build on it and they're paying taxes on the buildable lot, it could be a liability to Woodbridge.
Right. Okay.
Right, so
Thank
those
you.
are issues we'd like the town to look into.
And reflecting back on the prior applications for this grant, identifying this parcel, we did pull out maps of the soils and the wetlands and the topography, satellite imagery, all of that. And from what I could see, really the only buildable spot is directly along Litchfield Turnpike, because I can't imagine the town ever allowing someone to build across the West River and that the wetlands taking up a good third of that parcel right in the middle. To cross that, to put a building.
How many
Have to have a
acres is that
bridge.
lot?
28.
Okay, so I will tell you a scenario that could happen as of right. The owners could say, we want a Christmas tree farm on the east side of our property, and we're gonna build a bridge across the river. If they're gonna farm that section, they do not need inland wetlands permission. They have an as of right condition where they can build a bridge across the river. They can do that, and after they build the bridge, they can decide that that land on the other side, the farming didn't work out, we'd like to sell it and develop it. That's completely legal. And I can tell you this because I do know the law on this. It's supported by a 2016 Connecticut Supreme Court unanimous decision.
Really?
Yeah.
Even though the West River is not, it's not just a wetland that's a low spot. This is actually a river
Does not matter.
feeding through.
To get the permit, they may have to have the U.S.
Geological.
What's the
Natural-
USG?
Like there's the USGS, which is the
No,
geological. But then
Yeah,
there's-
they might have to actually get a permit from them, but they can't be denied the permit
Really
for the purpose of farming.
interesting.
So I'm just saying, it's a long shot, but it means the land is vulnerable in one way or another, and it's a prime piece that we would like to control, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's why continually, it means going back 15 years, the town was trying to purchase
Yeah.
this from the owners. They weren't interested in letting go of that. All right. So
Could we ask them for an easement?
yeah, I mean, if they're still not
I
willing.
think that might be a lot simpler. They might be more applicable to that.
It's a great
Yeah.
idea.
I mean, and that was something we had sort of thrown out there.
You know, if all else, if
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
want to consider any of the other ideas, I mean, that might be
So
a
maybe,
way to go.
Frank, you're right, start with an easement. Or should we start with the land?
Well,
No,
an
but
easement-
we
don't wanna
starting
seem
with
too
gifting,
eager,
'cause
though.
I already wrote it
You
down.
go in like give it. Maybe they'll be like, wait,
I mean-
there must be gold under here. You know what I mean?
No, they
I
already
mean,
know
they
that the town
about
wants
this.
it.
This has
There's
been
no
going
secret
on for
here.
a long time.
But
and
I
even
don't
I
really-
feel like it's been going on for a
But
long
why
time.
are they so maybe going?
Because it's theirs. They want it.
I don't
Right,
think
I
we
know.
ever asked them for an easement, though.
We've never
But
asked
I
them
will
for
say,
an
it
easement.
seems to me that, again, all the scenarios that I just talked about are very expensive.
And very
and-
unlikely.
And highly unlikely. So if they could reap some kind of monetary value in terms of a tax benefit benefit, I would think that would be a lot more attractive to them than an easement, which is still a liability.
Right.
I mean,
Well,
even with an
I-
easement.
Or ask them what they want.
I'm not
See-
sure about the
see
liability,
how
because
can we
if it
work with
becomes
you? What
part
do
of
you want? We want, this is why we want
greenway, I
it,
don't
nothing hurt, you know, we
believe
just
it's
want, you
necessarily a
know, and what
liability.
do you, is there anything that, any kind of negotiation, that what do you want, you know, see what they say. I'm sure, you know,
So Frank, the liability is that if, even though you have an easement, if somebody falls and hurts themselves, and chooses to sue, they will sue the town and they will sue the property owner. And if the town can't cover, even if in the document the town says that they are responsible for the pay, if the town can't cover it or our insurance doesn't cover it, they're still going to go after the owner. And so even if there isn't a monetary liability, the owner's still gonna have to hire a lawyer and go to court.
Yep.
Alright.
But he was allowing hunters on this property for many years, so maybe he's okay with.
Actually, yeah, a lot of hunters
Yeah.
there, right?
He might be okay with that potential.
But I like the idea of at least we should ask for one
Yeah.
and or both.
Yep.
Seems a lot simpler if he would consider it.
If they're not willing to sell it.
Yeah.
Because I know the state is also interested in acquiring this parcel. They just don't have the funds.
I think the state will absorb the liability if they were to take it. That's what I understood. That, you know, obviously if the state, you know,
Yeah.
if we could work with the state to get that easement.
All right. So, the idea of gifting the land to the town with a tax benefit, or perhaps if that wasn't palatable enough, throw in a zoning variance potential to allow them to build.
I think we don't want to talk about that. I think what we want to talk about is we want to have Christine look at, is the remaining lot, if they gift the rest, a buildable lot? Just, we want to, she can just do, it won't take long to do the homework to figure that out.
Okay. And if there's no interest in any of that, the easement is still always an option.
I mean, I
to
think
ask for.
if the town goes to them and said, will you give us this piece of property? And they say, well, we don't know if we'd be able to build, if we could at least say, yes, indeed, you can build it without a variance, that might make some difference.
Okay.
How many acres is on the other side versus this side?
how much in taxes is he paying on that too, I wonder. You know, I'd be curious to see how much he pays on in taxes.
I certainly don't have that at my fingertips, but I do have a map. Not that map.
Sure.
Not that map. That's a better map.
That's a cool map.
So I wish I had this on the overhead. So this shows the whole parcel from West Rock to the Litchfield Turnpike. About half of it is from the West Rock to the West River.
So it's split
And
quite
then
much
and
by
then
the river.
and then about of the half that goes towards the turnpike, 2/3 of it easily is all wetlands. And then there's this sliver right along the Litchfield Turnpike that is not designated wetlands. So to get to the back half of the property, you've got to cover a great deal of
Wetlands.
wetlands.
And in
So
fact,
it's not
there isn't
just
a
a
lot
bridge,
of
it-
back property that isn't wetland.
Right, and once
It's
you
all-
get
yeah.
and once you get to the back property, for
It's
those of
rock.
us that have walked along West Rock, it's rock. There's
What would you say the rock line goes there?
this is really the base of the vertical.
Oh.
Somewhere in here.
Oh.
There's the elevations. So you can see the elevations really start pitching up
Where'd you get
crazy,
this map?
Goes up pretty quick.
and then it levels off.
Where'd you get this map?
This one?
Yeah.
Either I downloaded and cropped this, or Christine might have given me this one.
Will you send that to us?
Oh yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Actually, I should put all this up. But yeah, the topography of the property. Look how steep it is to the back. So West Rock really probably starts right there. Again, I need to bring a laser pointer and a projector so I can show everybody instead of pointing at the screen.
That'd be great.
Especially for if anyone ever wants to watch this.
That's right.
They can see what we're talking about
it's
instead
very
of
steep there.
looking at the back of my computer screen. All right. Any other comments for me to take back to Sheila?
Usually a timeline, can you see, like, can you ask him how long, like, is there a timeline in terms of?
Well,
it?
when's the grant?
Well, this is all, being pushed by the grant, which is due February 1st.
Okay.
So I'm gonna say it's now 2 months out.
Okay.
And,
That's not a lot of time for holidays and everything.
oh yeah, this is always a tough time. We still have.
How much do we have in the bank?
For conservation?
Yeah.
Last I knew around,
Uh-oh.
it was between
That's
70,
not good.
it was between 70 and 80,000 in the
Oh.
in the open space fund. We chip away at it from time to time for some of this, especially with this particular grant, because this grant requires 2 property assessments to be done, and they vary in price from 1,000 to 5,000 apiece, depending upon the property and the level of detail that they do. We have 2 that I believe are valid right up until February, so we're on the verge of losing that as
That's a good
a
thing.
tool.
And how much are they appraised? What's the appraisal?
I don't remember the exact number, but it was between 150 and 200. So if we had,
I guarantee you that's gone down. What's the dates on the appraisals?
I think it was
2008.
Jan. No, these were done just last year.
Yeah, I think I did. Good job.
I'm not being very quick tonight to catch that one. They were the end of January last year, so we would be
Yeah.
sneaking in at the end of their 1-year validity period. The other property that we've talked about over on Park Lane has no assessments on it, so we would be starting from scratch on that, and we have no contact with the current owners. So that would be a lot of racing to get an application together.
I have a kind of ancillary question that is not a good time to answer, but do we have any updates on the status of the Enoch Drive situation?
We do not have any updates on Enoch Drive. That's the property that the town already owns, for those that aren't familiar. Up towards Bethany, it's an odd-shaped parcel, part of a homeowners association. And the question that's been on the table is whether the town is gonna sell the property. But we have not heard anything new. I think the whole discussion and movement on that is sort of stalled out in favor of other priorities. So,
Okay.
The last we heard, there was an interested buyer from one of the properties.
the abutting property owner had
Right,
interest in
that-
buying it.
That was the last.
But I'm gonna say no news is good news with that one. Anything else around this particular grant? Still the same parcel, to which everybody will actually witness firsthand shortly. Because seeing it is something that just looking at a map of it.
I'm good.
So my only other question is, the one thing I took away in this Wednesday annual meeting was that there were, with the new budget, basically all of the monies for open space, agriculture, everything were refurbished from the year before.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know what they all are and what all those grants might be. I know in particular one of the ones that was mentioned that's very flush is the conversion of fallow land back to agricultural.
Mm-hmm.
There was quite a bit of money apparently in that fund, and it's not, nobody's really spoken up for it yet.
Mm.
So that's one area I think we ought to try and look into. I would be willing to make a couple of calls on that unless you know a lot more about it, because I don't know anything about it.
I don't know anything about that one either.
And what other funds are there that are available that we might look at?
Right.
And the other thing is that from what they're saying is that there's a real good chance these funds won't be replenished next year. So if we're not applying to these things this year, it might be a much bleaker situation next year.
That particular grant, I don't know the details on at all. It sounds like it's tailored towards farmers to encourage
It's
agriculture?
absolutely tailored towards, I mean, you can't get the money unless you're farming it.
Yeah.
But it's, in particular, it has to be land that's currently been left fallow. In other words, it's overgrown or it needs work to bring it back to farmland. But I'm thinking we do have a fair amount of that land like that around here.
There's a whole bunch of it just on the
Whole
other side of the
bunch
town
here,
here.
yeah.
There's a bunch of grass clippings on it right now.
That's right.
There's
Well, maybe, I don't think, yeah. Golf courses that are left to go fallow.
Isn't that fun
There
for
we
that?
go.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
but in
Winston
the
Churchill Fund.
open space plan, we did have a section carved out for funding opportunities. I had not put that one into that list, but periodically we do, as a group, need to go through and look at the open space plan and look at those funding opportunities. The DEEP grant that we're talking about tonight is one of them, and it needs to be revised every year because grants do come and go. But
So,
that's a
again,
good, that's a good
why
one
I
to look at the
included-
details of. So go ahead.
We should go to this meeting next year, because if we took a table there, we would actually, we'd be like a small majority there. And I mean, you know,
Yeah.
just to be the face on, you know, in front of them, and everybody was there. I mean, the commissioner of DEEP was there. We could have all talked to him, you know.
Yeah.
Well, Rob Cleese, like.
Yeah.
He lives right around the
I
corner.
know.
He's ours.
Very
He's
smart,
our
I know.
people.
We had him come.
Well,
We
he's-
had him
well,
too.
he's
Yeah,
we had him
nice.
come to one
We
meeting
invited him to
as
a
just a
meeting.
special guest one time.
So let's have him come to the next meeting and talk about this piece.
That poor guy
Can he
is
call,
all over
can
the
he
state.
call Beth?
All right. So I think we've got some notes to move forward on this DEEP grant with the Nugent property in mind. And fingers crossed we'll come to, at the very least, an easement out of this whole process this time around. All right. Next on the agenda is the reschedule of the special meeting from the Alice Newton Street Park. So it was pouring rain.
Oh, it was really bad. that
It was
day.
terrible rain.
Yeah.
We couldn't have that one.
Surprisingly, the president of the Parks Association and several members of that group were there, expecting us to show up. It was my fault. I forgot to include him on the email saying that it was canceled. So I need to do better next time to make sure he knows if we're canceled or still on. But we do need to have that walk again, and it sounds like this weekend is not going to work out. The weekend after Thanksgiving, I'm always around, but it's also tricky for everybody else if you're traveling for families. So I don't want to impose everybody that you got to come out the Sunday after Thanksgiving for a trail walk. But that's one date that I would propose. And then looking into December, we've got the weekend where Leland's doing the trail walk. I guess we do have the December 2nd and 3rd weekend.
The 10th, I thought we were doing something, right?
This is to
For Leland.
reschedule the special meeting that was gonna be on October 29th.
Correct. Does anybody have any favorite dates in the next month?
January.
I know it's tough with the holidays and so much going on.
That's a tough time of year.
I know.
It-
We bumped up
The
against.
sooner before Christmas, the better, probably, I would think, because it'd be Christmas parties and everything else. What's the second week look like?
I'm flexible. I like hike every day, so I do. So I'm happy to.
So November 26th is the Sunday after Thanksgiving. Thoughts? Grimaces, head shakes, shrugs.
I don't-
What's
That's
yeah,
the
what I'm
guy's
saying.
name for the Park Association? I've seen those guys over there. The
Rich,
guy with
Rich
the
Forsilius.
poles, right? And another guy who's
I remember the guy with
you
the
know what I'm
poles.
talking about? Yeah.
I-
He's with the
We
poles.
could
Yeah.
And they all, I
tentatively
see
do
them
it
there all
then
the
and see how
time.
many
Yeah.
people.
What's his name?
Make it.
I don't know. They
Oh.
told me their names. That's why I
The
forgot.
Sunday
Do you have-
after Thanksgiving?
I might be able to. Yeah,
You might be.
Yeah, I will be around.
I'm a maybe,
So
I
I'm
don't know.
going to.
Well, that was the other.
I'll
You're
tell you,
either
these
here or
guys
you're
had a
not.
huge
So,
So
yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
wrap
just
us back
maybe.
around, Karen.
Really?
Make
The-
sure all the trails are clean, yeah, it's nice.
And you're around the 26th,
Yeah.
and you're
I'm in
around,
Boston.
and you're in Boston.
I'm also maybe in Boston.
How about
Really? Where?
Well, my daughter
are we gonna
goes
be in
to
the same
school
place?
there. I don't know. Let's keep that.
December?
Watch it on TV.
December.
Yeah.
Let's focus, people. Focus.
Focus.
December 2nd or 3rd.
Oof, we blew it.
Not the second.
So,
The third is possible, not the second.
December 3rd. It's the Sunday after the Sunday after
December
Thanksgiving.
3rd.
this is the craft fair.
Well, this isn't a whole day event. This is
Okay, I have to teach Hebrew school.
I can't do it.
You can't do it.
It just depends
Can we
on,
do during
on the
the week?
people from.
doing well.
Oh, you have to work.
Well, if you've got a headlamp. Well, I don't need to be there.
Oh, it
I
has to
don't-
be at night?
I don't need to
We
run
can
the
do
wall.
it during the day.
Well, during the day, I'm available either
Like in the morning.
before 6 a.m.
Yeah, no.
or after 7 p.m.
Like 11 a.m.
So-
11 a.m.
So take your pick.
Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like we're struggling to
We're
nail down a
struggling.
date here.
Struggling. The struggle is real.
Apparently. And then the closer we get towards Christmas and the New Year's, I'm sure people are traveling and crunch time for everything else going on.
Well, we could schedule it for one of those, and maybe we can make it somehow. Maybe we can be cloned by then.
Well, it sounds like there were as many yeses and nos for either December
Yeah,
3rd or November 26th. So
pick one.
December 26th. November 26th.
Yeah.
December
November
26th.
20.
November 26th.
It
Okay,
is- it
so-
is the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
Okay. At
Walk off that
what
turkey.
time? November or
I'm a morning person, so
Sunday,
I like mornings more than
November.
afternoons. But it could
11?
26
it could be a chilly one. Let's go for 11.
11.
at
And when's the
11
other
a.m.
one?
I
This
can't do
weekend?
that.
Do we
Did
do
you
we
say?
need someone
Oh yeah,
from
we
the
got
Alice Newton
the,
Park
What's that?
Association?
Yeah, I'll
1
reach out to
o'clock.
them.
So
You'll
what is
be
this
able to get them?
expedition?
Oh, I
Okay.
maybe can do that.
This is a
actually.
rating,
Okay.
are we trying to?
This is the purpose
This is
of
when we bring our
rating.
paper.
Yes, bring the rating sheet, and for
Rating
those
sheet.
those scores that are more pertinent to seeing the property in person. For example, the assessment of endangered plants or animals, you can do that at home with research, because you're unlikely going to find some 9-toed salamander under a rock on your walk.
I might.
I'm just making that up. But, well, you might. You never know. You might trip over something, a snake with 3 heads.
Oh.
But
So is this just us, no kids and dogs, or just like?
this would be a regular meeting. So, if
Oh,
if
regular meeting or special
well,
meeting?
this would be a special meeting. You're correct.
Special meeting.
Special meeting.
Rescheduled to Sunday, November 26th at 11. We can bring our kids, can't we?
You're welcome to, so long as they have somebody else to distract them, because we will be trying to focus
Oh, okay,
on
no
our
kids.
meeting
Oh my God.
purpose.
You're making it really hard. Okay.
Well, if you bring a friend who's got kids and your kids glom onto those kids, and then you can do your thing, and
Hmm.
the friend's family can make sure your kids don't go waist deep in some pool of water
Okay.
In December.
in December. All right, so we'll do that. I will contact the Parks Association, let them know of this rescheduled time.
And what about scout groups? Are we
Well-
inviting scout groups?
Not specific.
All right, I don't know why I have that down here. Okay, I'm taking
No.
that off.
No,
Okay.
no, this would just be a special meeting so that those of us on the commission can walk the property,
Okay.
look at the rating system, and
With the park commission.
yes, with some representatives from the Parks Association.
Okay.
Yep. All right. An item that was not on the agenda, but Leland brought up at the last meeting, and we've made some work towards, is talking about commission budget in comparison to others in the state. This is not on the agenda, but I am going to make a motion that we add this item to the agenda. The item.
I'll second the motion.
I didn't even make it yet. I love the enthusiasm.
love it, yeah.
That was great.
That's all we needed.
Commission budget added to agenda.
So the item to add to the agenda is discussion of the comparison of Conservation Commission budgets.
Compared to other conservation commissions.
Yeah.
Well, in specific towns within a population of 2,000 of our town, now, you had another idea of that too.
So let's let Lauren.
Yeah.
Yeah, catch up. I can't, I'm not a, okay,
It's close enough. All right. So I'm motion we add that. Frank seconded.
okay.
All in favor of adding that agenda item? Aye.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we can talk about it. So at the last meeting, Leland said, let's find some towns of similar size and analyze what their budgets are. You did that. You gave me a list, or highlighted,
And you did a map.
and then I took your list and did a map and tried to print all of this stuff from home, but the printer did not decide. It decided not to agree with me. So
Okay.
sadly, I don't have it in front of us. But it seemed as though the towns are fairly spread across the state. There was no, it's not like all of them are in the northwest corner or all of them are in the northeast corner. They're spread around. There's some right along the shore. There's some around Woodbridge area, and then, northwest, northeast corners. But the idea was to compare those towns of similar population with Woodbridge to see if our annual Conservation Commission budget is in line with what others are. And I think that it's a good, quick exercise that we can do, and we can even split up some of the work on this. So what I would like to do is take that list that Leland had put together, divide it up evenly among all of us. I think it works out to something like 3 towns per person,
Is it
maybe.
Bethany?
Okay.
Oh, no, they're different than Bethany, huh?
And what we'll do is visit that town's website and find their annual budgets and look through their annual budget for Conservation Commission. Some towns don't have. There was
So
one-
I tried
there was one I
that
looked up.
for a few of them. I think what we're gonna have to do is actually call, I'm not sure, the head of finance or the whoever's,
town.
like Tony Genovese at
Right.
each town. Because I tried several towns and couldn't get them. And what they typically do, as I think we do, it doesn't have our budget on the page when you go.
It's, oh, that's
Like,
interesting.
what's last year's budget? I couldn't find it.
Really?
Oh, I
Yeah.
found a budget though.
All right.
So-
Our
did?
budget for the town? Yeah, it's somewhere.
No,
No,
for the
but the
commission.
conservation.
Oh, for the conservation, I don't know if the conservation.
No, I found the
Oh, you
budget,
found the
but not
budget,
the-
but you didn't find
Yeah, line
I
item for-
don't know about the conservation.
So we are a line item in the budget,
At the budget,
because
yeah.
it's shown in the mailers that we get in town.
Okay.
And Conservation Commission.
Yeah, maybe,
line
I mean,
items.
I'm not saying it's not there, I just didn't find it, maybe I missed it.
So
What
when-
was it, by the way, last year?
Well, for this fiscal year, so starting in July 2017 through June 2018, I think we're at 1,600 for the year.
Okay.
So we've been,
Actually, you know what I did?
we were up and then we were down again.
Right. And one year we did like 3 or 4 years ago, we did like,
We always ask for more, way more
Yeah.
than. So the homework that I'm going to divvy up, and I wish I had it here, but I will send each of you an assignment to investigate approximately 3 towns, to find out what the budget is for their Conservation Commission, but also do a little more research into the town's open space. Is it comparable to
If it's-
Woodbridge?
I mean, we would want to know what their overall budget is and their I mean, it seems like it's
Well,
not
what's
just a
the purpose,
simple,
yeah.
just
Well,
what do they spend on conservation?
I think
that
really
it
what we
boils
want
down
to
to
do
that.
is, we because my only thought in starting it was that if they had populations of similar size, because that would represent basically their tax base. In other words, how many, because, that's how our town is made up, is property tax, right?
And then also, but if you're looking at like northeastern Connecticut versus Fairfield County, you're gonna have a completely different budget.
Well, but what's nice about this map
It's
that
all over, yeah.
he did up is, if you look at it population-wise, it's sort of all over the place. So the thought is, but I think literally we should, if each of us found out who it was, like Tony Genovese or something, emailed him just a little questionnaire and said, could you fill these up? And so I think what you're saying is, in other words, what percentage of your land, a breakout of land use, as well as the budget, and then what is the line item of your budget?
And what percentage of the budget?
We had 700 in the budget for our grant for this, or we had because what percentage are we in Woodbridge of
I'm sure it's pretty small.
protected land? No, I think it's a lot.
Oh, protected
the
land.
land.
But well,
Yeah.
then it gets into who owns it, right?
Right.
Water in our town,
Water
we're
company.
unique because we have a lot of water company property. But yes, part of the interest in all of this is how much of their town is conserved, to give an idea of how active are their conservationists.
Well, and as the first meetings I was in, we talked about the validity of counting the water companies, since
Right.
in the state of Connecticut, water companies have been sold, including this one, which used to be
Yeah.
not the regional water company.
So the questions, and I'll draft up some questions to go along with the homework, but it'll focus on the budget, the open space makeup in the town.
It's great.
I'm just thinking it's just probably also a matter of priorities. I know we're a very education focused town, and there might be towns that are similar size that don't have similar focus on education. They may have a lot more funding in conservation, and maybe that's a priority that we would like to see. I don't know, but there are so many variables in here. I just feel like just getting a number for conservation is.
Well, it could be. It could also be enlightening that if our budget's 1,600 and the average of all these other towns is 12,000, we might go, whoa, we are way out of the norm here, in so many different ways.
My thought is it's a good beginning. It's not a lot, but I mean,
Starting
for
point.
instance, one of the towns here is Litchfield. And Litchfield, I know because I've just finished a couple of projects up there, is closing schools all over the place because of their population decline, right? And so that's a statistic that we're not even looking at. We don't know what's happening into populations in the different areas. I mean, Woodbridge has certainly held kind of the same, right, over the last 15 years or so, right? I mean, it's hovered around 9,000.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Litchfield is one where the demographics have changed hugely in terms of they just don't have children,
That's
you know?
kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah,
Families
yeah.
in New York, they have
Yeah.
summer home. Or
Exactly.
Yeah.
homes
That
or
too,
whatever,
yeah.
Right.
So, but I think let's just start. I mean, unless you guys don't agree, I mean, I think it's a good way to
Sure.
start, just to
Sure.
see
Yeah.
where we are. Yeah.
And I also think it's a good eye opener to see what else is going on around the state, because if you're
Yeah.
looking at this stuff, you're not just going to find answers to these specific questions. I'm hoping that your eye will drift to something else that's being presented while you're looking. Hopefully focused on open space and not, oh my God, these guys are running their town into the ground. But let's focus on the open space part of it.
So here's one other stat that I took away that I didn't put in the report from the agriculture, is that $1 of taxpayer money comes back as $2. It's one of the highest returns for taxpayer dollars in the state of Connecticut.
What's that? Agricultural?
Yeah,
And parks.
which I never knew. Yeah.
Parks.
That's pretty good
Big.
information.
I thought I read during the budget where I was going. Yeah, it's a big return.
Yeah.
I won't take us any more afield. What's on the agenda?
We're past Lillian's bedtime, but you're the most lively one here tonight.
Sleep deprived drunk.
All right. So, short of that is look for that homework. If you have questions or comments, shoot them over to me. And also in December, we need to have our draft budget put together.
When does that do, by the way?
January 1st, technically. I found it to be a soft deadline for us because we're not a massive budget line item in the town.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
I like that.
But just as we have to file our meeting dates,
So how
At
did
the
we
start
get
of
our
the calendar year.
76,000 or whatever that we have in the kitty?
that I I don't know. And so far as I know, it was.
'Cause that's a lot of
it's-
1600s.
It's there. It's just there.
And was there ever a
It-
time that when
That is a
land
lot.
was sold that it went to the conservation fund versus the general fund?
No, as far as I know, I don't know if any properties that the town has sold. Did they sell that down the road, or the development rights? Maybe they sold it. But in any case, the typical process is the sale of property.
It's always
It all
been
goes to the
general.
general fund. Yeah. So I'm not quite sure where that
Bob
came from.
Life might have been around long enough to know that.
I could ask Kathy Gartland too.
Yeah.
She's still around. She was in
Will you put
conservation
that
for a
in your
long
task
time.
list? 'Cause we just
What's the next item?
Push it here.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next item is chairman's report.
Chairman's report, okay.
This will be fairly quick. First, as passed around,
Yeah,
Alright.
looks good.
the town website got a facelift, and this was plopped down for us because we are one of the 3 front page items here.
Headline
Nice.
here.
Yeah, right on the bottom.
So the conservation hike for December is already marked down on here.
Looks good.
Looks easier on the eyes.
Yes. Yeah, there's been some effort to make it easier to navigate and easier to digest if you're looking at it. Second item I wanted to report that Leland has already talked quite a bit about was the Working Lands Alliance luncheon that he went to yesterday.
When's,
That was yesterday.
oh, yes. Hard to believe.
And all of us have
It was
already.
a week ago, yeah.
So long ago.
We can piece together the summary of the meeting. He did circulate around a brief write-up. I hadn't had a chance to read it yet, but it sounds like those that did got something good out of it. And the last thing is this Saturday, Leland and I are going to the Kakiewicz annual meeting, conference. That's the Connecticut Association of Inland Wetlands Commissions.
Well, which has, the key things is, did you change what you were signed up for?
No, I didn't.
Oh, cause I was, it was,
I just-
I was signed up for like aviary and, you know, so I switched to all conservation and inland wetlands things.
Yep, that's fine. At the conference, even if you find that you start a particular session,
Oh, you can leave.
you can get up and
Ah, okay,
walk to
cool.
another.
Good.
Not quite like a movie theater, where if you're bored by your current movie, you
Right.
get out and walk to another movie. So that's happening Saturday, and we'll come back with renewed energy and lots of show and tell things at the next Conservation Commission meeting, because this conference is fun. I think each of us will be taking 3 workshops throughout the course of the day, probably some being the same. But that will.
So not to take up too much time, but I will tell you, I forgot to say this at the annual meeting for the Working Land Alliance.
Yep.
UConn provided one of the best meals I've ever had at a seminar. Don't forget it, you
That's a
guys.
good reason.
Yeah.
The farm to table?
It was
or
all
what?
farm to table
Oh,
and
man,
everything
I
was
should've
listed
gone.
from where it came, right?
Nice.
Which is really cool, the menu.
That's
Very nice.
so, I love that.
Yeah, it was
that's-
delicious.
That's great.
Well, maybe with your glowing review for those of us that have the time during the week, somebody else will go with you next year.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way,
That's-
who's been to the Capitol since it was renovated?
No. Been to the Science
Fantastic.
Center, but not the Capitol.
Just beautiful.
When was it renovated?
I don't know when they finished
Oh,
it.
it's
but-
been like,
It's
it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I think I
Not
was
in the last
Like,
few
who
years,
goes-
but
no,
longer.
like 20 years or something.
No. Because a friend of mine did all the stenciling there.
All right,
But
now
it's
we're
just
way off
fantastic.
topic.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
Go to your Capitol.
All right, I have nothing else. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
My mom was a NASCAR
Yes,
driver.
There's a good motion and a second right there.
Nobody goes-
All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, everybody.